Give us a bit of a smile there and I'll take a selfie. Are you ready? Awesome. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Better Life Project TV, the place to be if you want to make your awesome business and life happen. Today we're doing something a little bit different and I am so excited to welcome onto the show the incredibly inspirational Nicola Buckley, all the way from the UK and from Strongher onto the show. Nicola, thank you.
Hello my lovely, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I am so glad to have you on the show at long last.
We're on attempt, just so you know, people, we're on attempt number 3, so this has been a test of perseveration and just like keeping going and determination. So
we finally made it.
My mum and dad might walk in at some point, so but yeah, that's fine. No, we've done it. So yeah, it's great to speak to you. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm really excited.
You too. I'm so excited to have you onto the show to talk about your own experience as an entrepreneur and a business owner, but also to share your knowledge around how the brain works, because I know that's a bit of a passion of yours. Yeah. And as you like to call it, noggin knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, like the noggin knowledge I've been learning for a couple of years, so we'll go through my story in a minute, but really with the women, I work predominantly with women, and a lot of the time they're telling themselves things that aren't true and old stories and habits, and they're just letting those things run. And a lot of the time what they're suffering from and the challenges that they have in life and how they're reacting isn't really about them as such. It's not the actual person. It's not Sarah or Nick. It's just how their brain's designed to work. So the amazing thing about the noggin knowledge, it actually takes judgment out of the process of understanding what's happening, and suddenly you're not judging yourself and you're not lazy, weak, stupid, any of those things, scared. You're just reacting as your brain is designed to react as a human. And that takes a lot of pressure off them then to actually say, okay, what is the truth around this? And how can I work with my brain to make the changes that I want to in my life, to have a better business and a better life and a better body for a lot of them as well.
Yeah, I think it's great what you said there around the judgment, because certainly for me, if I was to experience a lack of confidence or anxiety or stress, I quite often judge myself for feeling that way. Yeah. And that just adds a whole other layer of complexity, of challenge, of difficulty to it as well, which doesn't make anything any easier, does it?
No, not at all. I mean, just with judgment. So the way that what I believe about judgment is anyone is free to judge anyone else. It's just, but it's so subjective. What you think of me and what I think of you, I'm never going to know unless I ask you. And it's based on my stories, my experiences, my beliefs. Not only that, but how am I feeling that day? So have I woken up in a bad mood? Have I then spilled coffee down myself? I've got stuck in traffic. Everything then I will judge people based on that framework of, it's called the hedonic tone, of whether it's positive hedonic tone or negative. So if it's already negative, you're going to judge people a lot more harshly. So it's everyone's right to judge everyone else. But I invite my clients very much to be much more in their own business than in everyone else's business. Because the thing that you can control yourself is how you think and feel. Ultimately, I can't make anyone fall in love with me. I can't influence clients saying, you must join me, you must do this work with me, you must do these things at this time. But I can control how I feel and how I show up in the world. And that's become more and more my focus. My life's got much better as a result. So I would just invite people that are listening to think about how they can be more in their own business and less focused on themselves. And the work that I do really helps women to get to know who they are and what they want. And that builds inner belief and confidence, because you have certainty and clarity. Therefore, there's less need to focus on what other people think and feel. And naturally, the focus comes back to you. So.
And on that note, for anyone who hasn't heard of Strongher or the work that you do, in your own words, can you explain a little bit about your journey so far, what's led you to do what you're doing now?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. So I am 39. I am a sometimes weightlifter, an ex-CrossFitter and CrossFit coach. I spent 16 years in corporate marketing. I got to a very senior level within telecoms companies. So I was a person that would manage big launches of iPads and iPhones, that sort of thing. So make sure that it all happened smoothly, and that it was multi-million pounds as all went to plan. I was also married for 8 years. I was with the same guy that I met at university for 12 years. And really that started to change when I ended up on my own, when we ended up unfortunately separating and then ultimately getting divorced. And then really with my corporate career, I took the gap in my life that was from my not being with my husband anymore, and I filled it with work. And I completely committed to my career even more than I already had done. I worked ridiculous hours, or pushed myself really, really hard. And on top of that, I kind of went to the gym and just like did 3 or 4 days a week at the gym. But I externally, I had everything that I could ever want, really. So I had the convertible parked on the driveway. I took home a 6-figure plus salary. I could go and shop of a weekend. I often did with my girlfriends, and have a long lazy lunch and spend a few £100 and not even think about it, and then go out in the evening and drink whatever I wanted to. I would go on 3 or 4 big holidays a year and not even think about it. I went to Trinidad twice in 4 months just because I wanted to. And I had all these great things. I never worried about money. I remember kind of getting clarity one day and thinking, another day where I'd been out and had lunch and shopped, and then went out in the evening in my new outfit. And then I just woke up and I just thought, this isn't making me happy. I'm chronically lonely. I have no idea who I am. I know that I want a family, but I'm further away in my mind than ever. I have this career that I see people being made redundant day in, day out, and I'm kind of putting everything into something that isn't making me happy. And it's that difference between externally, I had everything. I had this shopping list of things and this beautiful house that I'm just moving out from now, and it just didn't make me happy. So I suppose my journey started with then, and I probably just to share a fuck it moment that really brought everything into even more huge clarity. So a fuck it moment, just to qualify it, I tend to swear a bit, but a fuck it moment is where it's kind of like what Tim Ferriss would call a Harajuku moment. In my mind, it's a fuck it moment. It's where the penny finally drops and you get complete clarity, and you know that the pain of carrying on is going to be more than the pain of change. The fuck it moment for me was when my dad suffered very heavily from depression for 2 years due to a lot of stress at work. And my mum rang me one day in tears, and she said, she just said that they've been married 40 plus years. And she said, "Do you know how many words he said to me today?" And I said, "No." He said, "Your dad's just said 5 words to me today. That's it." And mum just broke down in tears and said, "I can't do this anymore. It's too difficult. It's too hard." And at that point she said, "Can I come and stay with you just to have a break?" And because I was feeling so low myself, and I know now, having been diagnosed with depression a few years ago, I know that period I was also suffering from it, but I just wasn't diagnosed. I wasn't depressed because I didn't give myself that label, because I didn't know. And I said no. And I didn't ever, at that moment, I realized I didn't ever want to be in a position where I couldn't help the people that had supported me for all my life, and they still support me now. And that I love more than anything. It just felt like I was a fraud and a failure. And at that moment, I just thought, right, this needs to change. I need to do something about this. So I started by changing my nutrition. So I started on a cleanse with a friend of mine still, a guy called George Anderson, a really great fit pro. And I did 14 days, and I always thought I'd eaten really healthily. And I realized through that process that I was going about it all wrong. I was following kind of the traditional food model and lots of pasta and just eating far, far too much and of the wrong stuff. So that was the first part of what I did. The second part was then I started training as a personal trainer. I wanted to give back in some way. I'd always loved keeping fit and healthy. I always struggled to lose the last half to a stone. And again, I kind of started to realise more the more I found out about it. But I walked into a CrossFit gym in Reading, and I saw, I'm a bit of a pervert, I'll be honest. I saw 3 guys with their tops off, lifting weights and sweating and just looking amazing. And I saw 3 girls doing things that I'd never seen girls do before in the gym. And I just walked in my, you know, pink outfit and just just totally didn't know what I was letting myself in for. And I was like, right, this looks cool. Where do I sign up? I want in. And then I became very much a CrossFit convert, but it led me into weightlifting. So I'm a qualified weightlifting coach and I love lifting. And lifting for me is all about being in the moment. You cannot be anywhere else if you're weightlifting. And it also showed me it completely changed my physique. So I went from being kind of skinny fat, if I'm honest. Now I have a very curvy athletic figure that I absolutely love. So that's kind of the second part of what I did. And then the third part was, for the last couple of years, I've been really working on me and truly getting to know who I am and what I want. So that started with, I work with my mentor, Dax Moy. Dax is the world's highest paid personal trainer. He's amazing. He created something called Mind Map. The Mind Map is all about the neuroscience of transformation. So if you need to make a change, it answers the question, I know what I need to do, but I don't seem to be able to do it. So we all know ultimately what we need to do in business, in relationships, in our health and fitness. We all know, yet we can't always do it, or we can't always do it consistently. And it taught me what is going on in your brain when you start off all guns blazing and then you go off track, or you get into an old habit creeps back in. An old story kind of comes into play and you suddenly feel like you can't do what you wanted to do. So rather than focusing on you as a person being lazy, weak, stupid, anything like that, it's none of that. It's just how your brain's designed to work. And that for me is transformed my life. And the whole process of the two things then. So what I work on now with women is predominantly what I call head and heart work. So the head work is kind of getting to know what is going on in your brain. And the noggin knowledge, which is the stuff that I share more and more, that I'm truly passionate about. And then the heart work is just helping them to get to know who they are and what they want. And bringing those two together is the core of Strongher now. And there's 5 principles within Strongher. So the Strongher you, which is getting to know yourself; Strongher brain, which is the noggin knowledge; Strongher move. So I still believe I love certain types of training and I want to share that with other women. Strongher food, so how to eat with love. And then the final one, Strongher forever, so how to bring that into your life just as part of what you do. And that's what I do.
Wow. It was when we were talking just before this, and you had mentioned, I asked Nicola, for anyone listening, if we could postpone our talk by just 10 minutes. I was getting a few bits and pieces sorted, but what I didn't tell Nicola was that I was actually just also out of bed.
Madam.
And it was ironic because I've been telling myself for a long time that I need to start waking up earlier, but I know I need to start waking up earlier. I just haven't gotten to that phase yet where I've actually been able to pull myself out of bed without pressing snooze. And when Nicola was saying, yeah, that's not a problem, I'm just back from the gym, I was going, God, like I used to be that way. It used to be such a great way to start my day. And I have these fantastic intentions of waking up at 7, but if I drag myself out of bed at 8, I'm doing pretty okay. So I just think that what you're about to share and any tips and strategies that you're about to share, like I'm going to be sitting here ferociously because it is true. There's a lot of things that we know as intellectual human beings, as rational human beings. We know what it is that we need to do in order to achieve X, Y, or Z. But as I sometimes describe it, it's about emotionally connecting those dots and actually being able to drive and motivate us forward. So what tips and strategies do you have for people listening to help them actually take that neuroscience of transformation or change so that we can actually start to implement that and create change?
Okay, so I'm gonna focus on for the minute, because there's so much I could talk about this, but I'm gonna focus on habits. We all have habits that don't serve us. So when I was in corporate world, I had this habit of, in really stressful weeks, and launch weeks were very stressful, things just had to get done. There would always be at least one major thing that would go hideously wrong that you'd have to fix. So my habit was that I would stop at the garage on the way home, get a bottle of wine because I deserved it. because I'd had a tough day. I would then get home, I would say, I'm just going to have a glass of my dinner, because that felt civilized, that felt, that felt okay. But it would generally end up with a bottle of wine later. So, not really helping myself get through these really tough weeks, but it was just a habit. And I gave myself moral license of I deserve it because I've had a tough week or a tough day, whereas actually that's complete bollocks. It was just a habit. It was hardwired. So what are habits? Habits are basically, there's something called Hebb's law. Hebb's law just means that what gets fired together gets wired together. So from a neuroscience point of view, a habit is purely a trigger and a reaction. And there's like a neuro pathway between the two. So neuro connection, the more that you feed it, it's kind of like survival, the busiest. The more that you feed it, the quicker that connection gets, the deeper it gets. So we've all probably had the times where there's something that we do just as a habit that we don't even notice that we're doing it. So maybe like the drive home from work that you do so often, it just happens. That's because you're in your subconscious part of the brain. That's so hardwired as a habit that you don't even have to give it any focus, because it just plays. So these habits get stored in part of our brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is the filing cabinet of our habits and experiences and our stories. So basically, when the trigger happens, I've had a tough day at work would be my example. It would be, right, that's the trigger, go into the amygdala, what is the reaction that should follow? And then it's like, right, okay, Nick goes to the garage, has a glass of wine that becomes a bottle. That's just what Nick does in that context. So that is essentially what a habit is. But the good news is that there's an easy way to start undoing those habits and replacing them with better things. But again, this is to say, anyone that struggles with habits, like, give yourself a fucking break. You're not lazy, you're not weak, you're not stupid, you don't want it hard enough. There's a lot of that in the fitness world. You just don't want it badly enough. That's bollocks. We're just not working with our brain in the right way. So
I'm so glad that you said that. I'm so sick and tired of health and fitness professionals going, you don't want it bad enough.
I've got to do a post at some point. It just winds me up so much.
Oh, me too.
Someone that's already feeling bad that they're not doing the thing that they agreed to. Worse, you making them feel, but you just don't get the neuroscience behind it.
Exactly.
So give yourself a fucking break, first of all. We're all human. We all do these things, but also you just hardwired that habit.
Yeah.
So, how to start to put together a better habit. So there's an acronym that I use. And that's called AIR. So I use this with myself and also my clients. So the first letter being A. So that's attention. So we spend about 95% of our time, and it just blows my mind when we think about this, in our subconscious brain. So we live 90% of our life kind of on autopilot based on the old stories, habits and beliefs, because the brain can't take everything from our 5-6 senses and kind of compute it. It has to trust. Actually, I know that what we've done before has kept you safe, therefore we'll go back to those old stories. So fucking wake up to what is going on. If you know there's certain triggers, if I know that my stressful day at work in my old career meant that I would then end up going to the garage, buying the wine and drinking it all, I have to wake up to that fact. There's a little bit of responsibility as well, but just wake up to it actually going on and say, right, okay, when is this going wrong? When is this trigger happening, and what are the feelings around it? And what's my recipe for that thing happening? What are the ingredients? So that's the first one, attention.
Okay.
Second one then is intention. So you've got the intention. I know that for me at the time, I wanted to get in even better shape than I was. So I was, going to the gym a lot, but I knew that bottle of wine 2 or 3 times a week wasn't going to help me. My intention was to get in better shape, because then I'd have more energy. Then I would fit in the clothes that I wanted to fit in. I would feel better going out on dates, all that sort of thing. I'd feel great going out with my friends. So the intention is I want to be a better me. That is the intention. And that is powerful enough to say, actually, when that trigger happens, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to drink that fucking bottle of wine. I want to be that better version of me. And if the intention is powerful enough, it will kind of stop you doing the old habit.
Yeah.
And then the final one is really just simple. It's sets and reps, like you do at the gym. So it's just okay. So how would I want to replace it? Actually, if I've had a really stressful day, maybe I want to go home and I want to call a friend, or maybe I'll go home and I'll cook an amazing steak for myself. What is a better habit that you're going to lay down? And then it's just set some reps.
Yeah.
And we talk about in the fitness world 21 repetitions of a habit to make it kind of hardwire it. It's actually around 66. But the good news is that actually after 3, that neuro connection starts to happen and it starts to build.
Yeah.
So really that basis of habit forming is so important. I go through it with pretty much all my clients that I work with, and it's a very simple framework. So awareness, wake up. Intention, what would you really want? Get intentional about your days and when the trigger's happening, it's like, actually I've got a bigger intention than that old habit, and then set some reps.
Okay.
That's forming it, and that can work across anything in your life.
Yeah. For a lot of people who are trying to create change, and many of the women or the men that you or I would work with, fear prevents them from even allowing themselves to have an awareness or to take action on it. And I know that fear is something that plays out a lot in the neuroscience of change, and it's something that we can explain, rationalize, and action. So what tips do you have for people who are too scared to take action? They're afraid of the unknown, of failure, rejection, or judgment, but they can do air, they can understand it, but they're too afraid.
Yeah. Okay. So fear, I truly believe, is just false evidence appearing real. So if you go back to, again, the neuroscience behind it, your brain is hardwired for negative. Your brain is basically a 2 million year old survival machine. That's all our brain, above anything, above us being happy and, living this amazing life. The brain is just designed for us to survive more than anything. Therefore, something that is out of routine and out of prediction and response, the brain sees safety in prediction and response. So the more change that is happening, the bigger the change, the more it's going to go into threat and fear mode. And really, with when the brain goes into threat and fear, you won't be able to think. You're back in your animal part of your brain. But the brain is just doing what it's designed to do. So again, don't beat yourself up. Like, we're all going to feel fucking scared at some points. We're all going to feel fearful. We're all going to feel those feelings. So just don't think it's you. It's just your brain trying to look out for you. So kind of let that play through. And the biggest thing around fear is, for me, the way that I work with my clients is that rather than trying to do everything at once. So again, coming from a health and fitness background and having my own business, we all want everything at once. We all want, I want to drop a dress size in 12 weeks. It's like, well, actually, it's taking you 5 years to get to where you are now. Why do you think that's going to happen? So the biggest thing that I could suggest, the biggest tip, is find your own pace. Everyone's pace is different. So find the pace that works for you. So it might be, so when I did have my gym, it was actually, for some clients, it was just the food side would be stop eating crap. Whereas for other ladies, it would be actually calories, macros, very specific. And same with exercise. And even with my business now, it's actually small daily actions and the pace that's right for me to kind of move it forward. And I have to be very aware of my own impatient wretch, which is my own kind of fear speaking a little bit, which kind of drives me harder. It's like, well, that doesn't serve me. So the thing I can just suggest is find your own pace, look inward more, see where, because fear only comes about for 3 reasons. So if something's too fast, too slow, or there's unclear intent. If you think of those, if you're just starting to feel scared and worried and stressed and anxious are the sort of words that you tend to hear, something in your life is too fast, it's too slow, or it's just not clear what's going to be the outcome of it. So always trace back to those 3. You can always kind of determine, well, where's that feel? Why am I feeling like that? Where's that come from? And then you can kind of start, right, okay, so this is how I'm feeling. What do I want to do about it?
I love the way that there is a science to help us explain these things a little bit more, because I think it removes so much of the uncertainty, the fuzziness around it. Quite often we think that if we're scared of something, then we're always going to be scared of it, or that we're supposed to be, or that we just need to accept it. But there are ways that we can overcome it, and I think it's so exciting to be able to work with those strategies and to gain that clarity on it, and moving at your own pace is just such an incredible way to empower clients to actually start to create that change, isn't it? Because we're going, the way that you want to move is okay, so we're just going to meet you where you're at. A couple of bits and bobs to help support you overcome it, and you will start to feel less fearful or more courageous.
Yeah, exactly. And the way that I work with clients is that I tend to work with busy ladies that are quite senior in organizations, and or they have their own businesses, so they're already incredibly busy. Giving them 29 million things that we agree that they need to do or inviting them to isn't going to help them.
Yeah,
actually 2 or 3 small things, they can consistently stick to those. They see the progress from that. They then get momentum and they start to have even more belief in what we're doing. And that means it kind of rolls into more and more. Actually, the changes that we focus on don't tend to be huge things. But if it's like, okay, so you're a bit worried at the moment, what can you control? What can't you control? Just let go of the thing. It doesn't need to be big things to change your life.
Yeah. What other things can a person be aware of with regard, like under this umbrella of neuroscience of change, of creation change, what other strategies or tips can we be aware of or become aware of to help us?
Well, one I wanted to talk about today, which is one of the ones that I think has helped me and my clients the most, is just around the triune brain theory. So I'm going to geek out for a minute.
Okay, go for it. I love it.
There's basically, we have one brain, but within our brain we actually have 3 brains. So let me just go full geek for a minute. And I'm an exciting dinner guest, honestly, I really am. But no, again, for me, this really helped me understand why I was feeling certain challenges and why certain struggles would keep coming up. And actually, it makes the reason I love this stuff so much, because I'm head and heart is basically me. I'm a very emotional person, but I'm also very, very rational, given my corporate background. So to me, this kind of marries my two approaches to life, so which is why I love it so much. So back to the 3 brain theory. So you have 3 brains. So your first brain is your very primal brain. It is your animal brain. It's based right back, sort of towards the back of your head here. It was the first brain that basically kept us happy. So when we were starting to stand up, when we were starting to talk and become human, if you like, that was the brain that kept us safe. That brain is only interested in one thing. That one thing is safety and survival. So that is the brain that if it sees anything negative or anything that is out of pattern, it will focus in on that and it will just draw you back into that part of the brain. And that's where something has happened to draw you back into that part of the brain that is too fast, too slow, or there's unclear intent. So that's the first part of the brain. And that's what I would generally suggest that most people spend majority of their time in that part of their brain. So the words that you'll be saying, worried, stressed, anxious, scared, fearful, you'll generally be in your human part of your brain. In your animal part of your brain. That's the most historic part of the brain. The second part then, so your second brain is your mammalian brain. So as we started to kind of live together in caves, as we started to kind of form relationships, because we knew that surviving, we were more likely to survive if we stayed in groups. Therefore, this part of the brain, it makes absolute sense. It was all about social connection. So it's partly the senses will be scanning for where are we potentially going to be on our own, or we're not going to be loved. So come back to Tony Robbins, there's 2 human fears that we all have, and that's not being loved, and that's being on our own, or not being enough, and those relate to social connections. And that's why, and it's actually physically bigger in women, which fascinates me, because we spend so much more time worrying about what he said, she said, he hasn't texted me, what does that mean? He sent me a text and it said this, what does that mean? And we spend so much time as women kind of focused on what other people think and feel, and that's just because that part of the brain is bigger. Whereas men tend to more quickly go into the animal brain because their reaction is quicker. So that's the second brain. So that's where we'd be worried about what friends think of us, what family think about us, and just judgment. That's where judgment is as well. So you can, again, things like you'll be saying, I wonder what they think, what they feel, how's that going to impact this person? If I say this, will it upset some, all those sort of things. I can't have that open conversation with my boyfriend because it's going to upset him. Or I need to speak to my boss about something that's going on at work, but I don't know how he's going to react. That's all social connection related. And then the third part of our brain is where we become human. So it's right in the front here. It's called the prefrontal cortex, and it's where Sarah is Sarah, Nick is Nick. It's kind of where we are ourselves. So it's the home of learning and development and self-actualization and visioning and dreaming about the future. But we don't get permission to access that part of the brain until we've satisfied the other two parts. So the animals must be satisfied before you can talk to the human. It's the easiest way to think about it. You know, when you're in that part of the brain, things will feel easy. You'll feel in flow. You'll feel excited. You'll just feel very connected with yourself, and things will feel generally easier. And it's like I said, you don't get to access that part of the brain without satisfying the other two parts first. And for me, the 3 brain theory just gives so much sense and reason to why we feel certain things at certain times. So I recently lost my little dog Sam, and the social connection part of my brain is still going mad, like missing. My house move that I had all planned out isn't potentially happening, so I have no prediction and response that I want to at the moment. I'm getting comfortable with not having that, but my animal part of my brain is going, well, where are you going to live? What are you going to do? So you can start to understand why you feel certain things, and again, that removes your own judgment from, oh God, I'm so weak because I feel like that, or why do I feel like that? It's just like, well, it's all explained through neuroscience. So and then there's no judgment. It's not your fault, if you like.
And for anyone who would struggle to accept that, not accept the 3 brain theory, but to accept that I am afraid and I just need to embrace it and sit with it, or I don't have as much control as I want, a huge part of being able to move forward is going to be able to, without judgment, accept this phase.
Yeah.
For anyone who might struggle with that, what is it that they can do to help them a little bit? Or does it come down to practice?
A little bit of practice, but for me, one of the biggest things I teach my clients, and that's changed me as well, is just being more present and more here and now, which sounds very woo-woo, but bear with me. So again, I would think the majority of people aren't really living in the here and now. So a lot of people do what I call time traveling. So they're looking back at what's happened and they're judging themselves, feeling bitterness, regret. I shouldn't have said that. I wish I'd done that differently. It's like, well, that's done. It's kind of irrelevant. It's kind of, that pony is bolted. It's just kind of pointless worrying about it. And also then looking at the future, which is where words like worried, stressed, and anxious potentially come in. Like us now, we're in the present. We're just having this great conversation. There is nothing else. There's not, a house move to sort out. There's not, the passing, that doesn't count in the here and now. So the biggest thing that I help my clients with is something called, I have my own method of it, but breathing and box breathing. I don't know what's happening with my voice. So the box breathing, you'll be able to look it up and find it online, but we could pop a link in the show notes to what I my clients. And that's just breathing in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4.
Okay.
All the focus comes inward. All the focus comes into the breathing and being in that moment. Because in the moment you don't hurt, there's no pain, there's no suffering, there's just acceptance. So for anyone that is feeling fear, first of all, it's perfectly natural. It's how your brain's designed to work. So just be at peace with it. And I welcome it now as a growing pain. If I'm shitting myself about doing something, it's probably because it's going to take me to the next level that I need to get to. So I welcome it. I try to welcome it now as a growing pain and say, acknowledge that it's there. Yeah, I'm scared. But what's the worst thing that can happen? And would you rather feel that fear and move forward, or what would you rather stay stuck where you are? And then this very much the breathing to bring you back into the here and now.
Yeah. For anyone who is trying to create this change and then they experience like temptation. So if someone is trying to get into the habit of going to the gym regularly, but on the 3rd day of the 2nd week of their new plan, they're really tired and they're not bothered, or it could be any other aspect related to their mental or physical fitness. How do you encourage a person to resist the temptation, to embrace the temptation, or to accept it? How do they work through it?
So I think there's a couple of things. I'm a big believer in starting. So with all my clients, and again, I try and apply this to myself as much as I can. We would score. So say health and fitness. We would score 1 to 10. So 1 is, or 0 is, you're not really doing anything with it at the moment. You're nowhere where you want to be. 10 is like, I'm doing exactly what I want to do and where I want, so I'm going to get to where I want to be. So say if someone was a 3 or a 4, they're getting to the gym once a week, they're eating fairly well, whatever their definition of it is, that 3 or 4 is okay. So you are a 4. I use something called the +1 strategy. So what makes that 4 into a 5? What couple of extra things are you going to do? Again, that helps them find their own pace. It means they're not overwhelmed. So if they're going to the gym once a week, that becomes twice a week. And over time, they'll take that 5 to a 6 and it becomes 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Whatever feels right for them at their pace. And it is a bit about acceptance, but the only flip side of that is sometimes you just need to listen to your body. Like, I haven't trained for 2 weeks now. I've just been kind of going on walks like a mad ex-dog owner and like a dog stalker rather than a walker. But that's kind of what I felt I needed at that point, to kind of go for the walks that Sam and I used to go on my own, and kind of that's still part of my routine. It's still something that I love. And it was morning, it felt like the right time to get back to the gym. But my +1 will be, if I'm moving this week, I'll do the best I can. And then I'll move when I get down to home and get in a routine. It'd be right, what do I feel I can do? I think I can do 3 times a week. Yeah.
And I love that as well, because it's really working within, it's really supporting a client just work with where they're at.
Yeah.
I think sometimes there's far too many generic statements and generic strategies that we can spout on about, and it doesn't take into consideration what that person's actually going through or what is easy or hard for them. So the whole idea of just +1, I just think that's incredible, because it meets the person where they're at. And in health and fitness as well, everything can be sometimes very generic, and it can be we can be very, very hard on ourselves. I haven't trained either in the last 2 weeks since my powerlifting competition, because I've just been listening to my body, and my body has just been going, oh, I'm really enjoying having a break, Sarah. I'm really enjoying not doing anything. And there's so many of us who actually ignore that part of our brain, because we feel like in order to be enough or to be perfect, we have to keep going and not stop and act in spite of all of that pain. Whereas I actually feel that, we're at our bravest when we're listening to that pain, embracing it.
Yeah.
And giving ourselves what our spirit or mind or body actually needs at the same time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just I think acceptance is such a huge word, and I think it's so underplayed, to actually just be able to accept where you are, not judge it as bad or good, but it's just where you are. And then the +1 is an easy way to move on from there at your own pace, and without judging yourself or without overwhelming yourself. If you're overwhelmed, you tend to procrastinate. So it's that whole move, and it is building up. I think as you get to know yourself more, you just have that trust and belief in who you are so much more, and you build that confidence. Actually, you make better decisions. You make decisions that are based on what you want, and it's only going to build and become more from there. So I would just urge people to kind of trust their gut instinct, and the more you listen to it, the louder it tends to become, and the more you know yourself, the more that you're going to be able to do that as well.
I like to ask my guests when they come onto the show, surprise them with a little question at the end. What one thing do you do every day to make your business and your life awesome? So what do you do to make your business awesome every day?
Gosh, that's a great question. I'm just very intentional about my days. So I tend to plan my day the day before, and I make sure that the day happens for me, not to me. It's not perfect all the time, but so I would plan out what I need to do. I will book in time to do those things, even down to going to the gym, and I will stick to those as much as I can. Obviously, it ebbs and flows of life, but I tend to get very intentional about my day. So my days start with me. So start with breathing, writing, reading, hopefully gym more and more. And then through the day, I would tend to do like a lot of my social media stuff and content stuff first thing, and then it'd be into client work and calls.
Okay, awesome. And what one thing do you do every day to make your life awesome?
What do I do? That's a good question. I don't know. I live and work on my own, so I think it's about connection. I just try to connect every day with someone that I love, or someone that it lifts me, so that I can definitely.
I do the exact same thing, and it's something that I try to do. That I think quite often about. I live in or work on my own as well, and James will spend a lot of time in the gym, so I go out of my way to connect with people on a daily basis, whether it's on the phone or actually seeing them face to face. And I think it's such an important aspect of our lives that we sometimes overlook.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you get so much influence from the people around you, and just think of the mammalian part of the brain that needs connection, feeding. So our conversation this morning has kind of set me up for a good connection through the day. So just feed the different parts of the brain, give the animal brain safety and routine, feed about your days, give the mammalian part of the brain connection and being with people that you love and you lift you. And then, then you'll be in your human brain more and more. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what piece of advice would you give someone who was trying to create change in their life? But I think you've almost done it. But is there anything else that you'd like to add? Like, what one thing could a person do right now and today to help them create that change, to understand themselves a little bit more?
So just a great thing that I get all my clients to do when they start, and that just is a really like a hug in a little challenge. So just to write down, just to really kind of just remind themselves that they're a winner and that they've always been a success through life, and they've got this far to the point where they're making choices about their business, their career, their relationships, and they want to improve themselves. They want to be more. So just really to get a blank sheet of paper, right at the top, who I already am, and then write down every time in their life that they've won, or they've had a success, or they've achieved something. And when they feel like they can't go anymore, get their partners to input, get someone else to input, and kind of keep going and keep going. And it's a great thing to do because you realize what you've already done. But it's also a great thing if you're not having the best of days. It's also a great thing to go back to and remind yourself that's what you've done, that's what you've created, that's the legacy that you kind of brought into the world. And it's a really nice thing to do, and it reminds you that you're already a success. You're already a winner. So anything more that you do is just going to bring more to the world.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Nicola, if people wanted to find out more information about you, where can they find you?
So I'm on Facebook. So I'm on there as Strongher, Nicola Buckley, Strongher You, or just Nicola Buckley. I do a lot on my personal page, just sharing kind of what's going on in my life and what do every morning. I do little live videos. Then I'm on Instagram as Strongher You, and then I'm on Twitter as an old name, Nicola Buckley PT. So so you can find me, and then my new website will be launching in the next couple of weeks. That's www.strongheryou.com.
I can't wait to see that. That's going to be an awesome website.
Yes, I think it is. Well, no, I know it is. I've written it. I'm going to put it on my wins list.
I can't thank you enough for coming onto the show and sharing your passion about noggin knowledge. It's just the biggest struggle these days for so many people. They know what they need to do, but they don't know how to go about creating that change. And I think after listening to you talk, there's not one person who's gonna come away from this without a tip or something they can do to help them overcome that. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for all the work that you do strengthening your own knowledge as well, because clearly there's a lot of people benefiting from it. So,
but all I would say is that I don't ever want to be a coach that kind of, some of my work can be a little bit woo-woo sometimes, but I don't want to be the coach that kind of, you just need to get to know yourself, but you don't actually tell anyone how to do that, because that's not, I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's right. So stuff is very practical, and there's little challenges and homework that my clients do. But it's really about, okay, so you're telling me how do I do that? No one teaches anyone these things. No one says how important it is to know yourself and know your values, because that's how you form your life, or ultimately know what you want, because otherwise you have no clue where you're going.
Absolutely.
So really passionate about, okay, let's not be one of the coaches that just, spouts on about how to do things.
Yes.
Great.
No, and you're so right. Thank you so much again.
So welcome.
Having you on the show, and I hope that everyone is going to jump onto your social media and give you a follow, and keep up to date with all of the awesome work that you and Strongher is doing.
Thank you, my lovely. I'm so glad we got there in the end.
Me too. Yay! 3 times the charm. It was absolutely wonderful talking to you. Take care.
Bye.